In the heart of bustling Lagos, where the sun scorches the cracked pavements and the air hums with the noise of impatient buses and shouting hawkers, life had long forgotten Amara. She was a shadow among the crowd, a barefooted girl draped in torn clothes, her hair a tangled forest of neglect. Each morning, she positioned herself near the Lekki toll gate, clutching a small rusted plate, her wide brown eyes searching for mercy among the hurried faces. But mercy was rare in a city that barely had enough for its own. One evening, as the amber sun bled into the horizon, Amara sat huddled by an abandoned kiosk, her tiny frame trembling from the evening chill. It was then that a black G-Wagon, polished to a mirror shine, slowed to a stop before her. From the vehicle emerged a man dressed in crisp native attire, his wristwatch glinting under the dim streetlights. His name was Obinna Okafor, a man whispered about in business circles, known for turning dust into gold. Obinna watched her quietly for a moment, his deep-set eyes softening. There was something about her, not just the misery, but the quiet strength behind her gaze that stirred something deep within him. "What's your name, little one?" he asked, his voice gentle but firm. Amara shrank back at first, wary. Experience had taught her that kindness was often a mask. But something in Obinna's demeanor made her whisper, "Amara." He knelt down to her level, ignoring the curious stares of passers-by. "Amara," he repeated thoughtfully. "Would you like to come with me? To a place where you won't have to sleep under the stars or beg for food?" Suspicion flickered across her face. Was this a trick? Another man looking to exploit a desperate girl? Yet exhaustion weighed heavier than fear. After a long pause, she nodded once, her decision reluctant, cautious. In the weeks that followed, Obinna transformed Amara's life in ways she could barely comprehend. She was given a private room in his mansion, a sprawling estate in Banana Island, with white marble floors that felt too pure for her battered feet. Maids attended to her, dressing her in fine clothes, feeding her dishes she couldn't even name. It was as if she had stumbled into a fairy tale, but one she couldn't trust. Obinna was kind, almost to a fault. He never touched her inappropriately, never raised his voice. Instead, he treated her like a fragile blossom, showering her with gifts and attention. Yet Amara remained cold, her heart locked behind walls built from years of betrayal. In Obinna's heart, something deeper had begun to bloom, an intense affection, a fierce longing to heal her wounds with love. But Amara saw only a transaction, a rich man who bought her freedom, and expected something in return. As the days turned into months, a quiet tension thickened between them, unseen but palpable. Amara lived like a bird in a golden cage, too fearful to trust, too damaged to dream. And deep within her, an unspoken question began to stir: was kindness ever truly free? Amara adjusted awkwardly in her new world, a world that sparkled with wealth but suffocated her spirit. Each morning, she woke in a bed that felt too soft, surrounded by maids who treated her like a porcelain doll. She should have been grateful, and in a small way, she was, but an invisible wall kept her heart barricaded. Gratitude was not love. Safety was not trust. Obinna, on the other hand, found himself sinking deeper into an emotion he hadn't anticipated. Every stolen glance at Amara, every rare smile she gave, wrapped tighter around his heart. Yet he was a man of the world, a man used to negotiating complex business deals, not winning the heart of a wounded girl. He tried everything. He brought her books when he noticed her spending hours reading by the garden. He hosted small, quiet dinners instead of the lavish parties he was known for, hoping she would feel less overwhelmed. He even learned to cook a few simple dishes, awkwardly presenting burnt jollof rice with a shy grin that made his staff laugh behind closed doors. But Amara remained distant, offering polite smiles but no warmth. One evening, Obinna invited her to the private balcony overlooking the sea. The sky was a soft purple, the waves kissing the shore with rhythmic tenderness. He handed her a cup of warm zobo and sat a respectful distance away. Amara, he began, his voice hesitant, unlike the powerful businessman he was known to be. I don't want to buy your happiness. I don't want to own you. I just want to be someone who makes you smile. Amara stared into the horizon, her fingers tightening around the cup. A gust of wind tangled her hair across her face, and she didn't bother to fix it. People always want something, she said finally, her voice low. No one gives without expecting to take. Obina's chest ached at her words. He saw the scars she tried so hard to hide, the way she flinched from genuine care as if it were a blade. I won't rush you, he said quietly. Even if you never love me back, even if you leave tomorrow, having you safe is enough for me. For a brief moment, their eyes met. In his gaze, Amara saw no hunger, no demand. Just a deep, aching sadness, and a hope so fragile it almost broke her. But old wounds bled stubbornly. She stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the tiles. Thank you for everything, she said, her voice strained. But you can't fix me. No one can. She fled into the house, leaving Obina alone under the bleeding sunset. That night, in the darkness of her room, Amara lay awake, staring at the ornate ceiling. Her heart was a battleground, torn between the comfort he offered and the fear that it was all a carefully set trap. Kindness had always been the bait. And love, she had learned, was just a prettier word for chains. But something inside her, something small, something stubborn, had started to wonder. What if this time was different? The days that followed were filled with a heavy silence between them. Obina kept his distance, just as he had promised. He focused on his work, attending endless meetings and late-night conferences, while Amara wandered the mansion like a ghost. She watched him from afar sometimes, how he smiled tiredly at his staff, how he spoke with a quiet humility unusual for a man of his stature. There were no hidden cameras, no locks on the doors. Freedom, real freedom, was hers. Yet the chains around her heart remained. One rainy afternoon, a storm tore through Lagos. The skies wept furiously, and lightning cracked across the sky like angry whips. Amara stood by the window, watching the city blur into a misty gray. Her mind drifted to the streets, to the children huddled under broken umbrellas, to the smell of wet garbage and broken dreams. That had been her life. That had been her reality. And here she was, clothed, fed, safe, and still empty. A loud bang interrupted her thoughts. She turned to find a maid frantically rushing past her, murmuring something about an accident. Heart pounding, Amara followed, her bare feet slapping against the cold marble floors. In the driveway, she saw it, Obina's car, its front crumpled like paper against the estate's iron gate. Blood trickled down his forehead as he struggled to open the door. Without thinking, Amara ran toward him. Later, in the mansion's private clinic, Amara sat by Obina's bedside. His breathing was steady, but his face was pale, his body bruised. The doctor assured her he would recover, but seeing him so fragile, so human, cracked something inside her. For the first time, she realized, he wasn't invincible. He wasn't some wealthy giant who could never be hurt. He was flesh and blood, and he had risked everything, even his pride, just to care for someone like her. Amara didn't leave his side that night. She wiped his forehead, adjusted his blanket, whispered broken prayers she hadn't uttered since she was a child. When Obina finally stirred awake, his voice was a ragged whisper. Amara, you're still here. Tears she didn't know she had been holding spilled freely. She nodded, unable to form words. She was still there. And for once, it wasn't out of obligation. It was choice. The next morning, as the sun fought its way through the storm clouds, Amara met Obina's gaze with a trembling smile. She reached out, taking his hand, the first time she had ever touched him willingly. I don't know how to love, she whispered, voice thick with emotion. But, maybe you can teach me. Obinna's eyes glistened, his grip on her hand gentle, yet unyielding. He didn't speak, he didn't have to. In that silent moment, 1,000 promises passed between them. The walls around Amara's heart were beginning to crumble, not with force, but with patience. And maybe, just maybe, she could rebuild something new from the ruins. Weeks passed, and the seasons shifted, just as something inside Amara quietly, painfully shifted too. She spent more time by Obinna's side, not out of obligation, but because she wanted to. They talked about everything, the books she loved, the music he used to dance to with his late mother, the dreams they both thought they had buried long ago. Obinna never pressed her, never hurried her heart. He laughed with her when she teased him about his terrible cooking, listened intently when she shared stories of her difficult childhood. In those simple moments, Amara began to see something she had never dared believe in, a love that asked for nothing but her presence. One evening, under a tree heavy with the scent of frangipani blossoms, Obinna surprised her with a picnic. No fancy china, no golden cutlery, just plain food spread over a faded ochre cloth, 2 people sitting barefoot on the grass. The sunset cast a warm, golden light over the world, and the breeze carried the distant sounds of Lagos's restless heartbeat. Amara sat cross-legged, plucking petals from a flower. She caught him watching her with that same look, not of possession, but of deep, earnest admiration. You changed my life, Amara, Obinna said softly. You reminded me that wealth means nothing if it can't bring someone joy. Amara looked down, her fingers trembling slightly. For so long, she believed her heart was beyond reach, a locked fortress no one could enter. Yet here he was, standing at the gate, asking permission instead of demanding entry. For the first time, she smiled, not the polite, empty smiles she had given before, but a real, aching, beautiful smile that reached her eyes. I was wrong about you, she whispered. You didn't buy me. You saved me, not with money, but with patience. Tears filled Obinna's eyes, but he blinked them away quickly, laughing through the lump in his throat. I didn't save you, he said. You saved yourself. Under the sprawling sky, surrounded by the hum of life, Amara leaned into him, resting her head against his shoulder. There was no fanfare, no dramatic music, just 2 broken people finding peace in each other. Their story didn't end with a wedding under chandeliers or a grand announcement in the tabloids. No. It grew slowly, like a stubborn flower blooming through cracks in the concrete. Love wasn't a transaction. It wasn't owed. It wasn't demanded. It was chosen, freely and fiercely. In time, Amara found herself loving Obinna not because she had to, but because her heart, at last, wanted to. And in that choice, she found a freedom greater than any mansion or treasure. The true wealth, she realized, wasn't in what he gave her, it was in the space he created for her to heal, to grow, and to love when she was ready. A space where her soul could finally belong.